Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The Paradigm Shift. We are on episode 26, I believe. Oh man, what a year 2023 has been. We are starting season 2 of The Paradigm Shift. We are once again coming with a new rebranding, with new insights. I wouldn't even call it a rebranding. I think it's more of it's a growth, you know. I've been growing in this season and it was just so interesting. I think the last episode I recorded I was in Thailand. But now I'm finally back in my home studio. Feels good to be here. And this year I have a lot of things in store. I did promise that last year, and I believe I fulfilled it. But I think this year it's more elevated. It's an elevated refresh. So basically, what have I been doing since I last recorded? Okay. So last time I recorded I was in July. So I guess you guys know what I've been doing even before all of that. But what I think I'd like to do in this episode of season 2, episode 1 is to give you an overview of the things that I learned. So not necessarily where I've been, but what I have learned on this trip, because I think 2023 was the year where I think I learned the most things in my entire life, you know. And maybe I'll do another video on my YouTube channel talking about the 23 lessons I learned in 2023, you know, because it really was that many lessons. So, as you know, I quit my job in March to go off and do our world trip, myself and my wife. And in that process, so we went to Portugal, spent 3 weeks, went to Thailand. So we landed in Bangkok, spent a week there, Bangkok, Phuket. Then we went to Koh Tao for another week. That's 3 weeks. Then after that, we came back to Bangkok again, and then we went and took a bus into Cambodia. So we flew into Cambodia, we went to Siem Reap, and then we went to Phnom Penh for another while. From there, I think it was only, how long did we spend there? Was it 2 or 3 weeks? We stayed 3 nights on the farm. Then I think we stayed, yeah, a week in a hostel. And then after that, we went to Phnom Penh for another maybe 3 or 4 days. We ended up having to stay an extra couple of nights because we didn't know that you could get a visa. You couldn't get a visa on arrival going into Vietnam. So we went over to Vietnam and landed in there. And we then we got a bus in, which was another like maybe 9, 10 hour bus. It's pretty comfortable though. We had recliners and stuff like that, so it wasn't too bad. After that, we went to Saigon. We spent one day there, and that is Ho Chi Minh City. Saigon is the ancient name that it's always had. Ho Chi Minh City is where it's at, and is the name of it. And it is an absolutely huge city. Like the cars, the people, the food, everything. We did as much as we could in the day that we spent, and then we took a direct flight right up to Hanoi. While we were in Hanoi, we spent maybe a week there. No, sorry. We spent a couple of days actually just in Hanoi Center because I wanted to experience the life inside Hanoi, in the streets, the bustling streets, amazing food. The prices were out of this world, you know, the people, everything. It was amazing. So after we spent a couple of days there, we then went to, it was actually less than a week. We then went to Ha Giang to do the Ha Giang Loop, which was a 4 day expedition on motorcycles. And we had no internet for 4 days. It was unbelievable. Oh my goodness. I still think about it. It was the best experience, the best views, the scenery that I've ever experienced in my entire life. Unbelievable. Went there, went to Ha Giang, did that for 4 days. You know, I think it was 4 days in total. Yeah. Then we took another 6 hour bus back to Hanoi again. We didn't stay inside the center of Hanoi this time. We then went to stay in a 4-star hotel, which was just a little bit outside of the main city, maybe a 20-minute drive. But when we got to that hotel, we didn't leave for a whole 2 weeks, you know, or just under 2 weeks, but we didn't leave. We booked like 4 days and then we said, we like this place too much. We booked another 4 days and we just kept doing it like that. And it was just unbelievable. You had lovely scenery, you had a gym sauna and a gym sauna and a swimming pool that were all on top of the hotel, views of the city, but we were absolutely wrecked because we didn't stay clearly in the same place for more than a whole week. So we decided to just stay there and recharge. And in that time, I learned so many lessons. So, you know, after we finished there, we then took a direct flight. No, we went back into city center again for I think 1 or 2 nights, and then we took a direct flight to Chiang Mai in Thailand. So, as you know, at the beginning of the trip, we did all of southern Thailand, but now we got a direct flight to northern Thailand, and that is where I stayed for a whole month. I did Muay Thai boxing with the Thai people, amazing people. I trained every day, got myself a motorcycle, driving around every day, going through the mountains. One of my best friends came and joined us while we were there for 6 weeks with his lady, and that was another amazing experience. So, training camp, getting work done in terms of I was doing a lot of voiceovers and for a YouTube channel, for a YouTube automation channel. So that was a really interesting experience, another one. And right after that, then we came back to Ireland after we finished in Chiang Mai. And no, I went to Bangkok then after that at the end. So we spent a month in Chiang Mai, then I spent another 10 days in Bangkok at the very end. But really, I think I only spent 4 days of that 10 because I just didn't see the point anymore. I felt like I achieved everything I had to achieve. My wife left a couple of weeks before me, actually. And I just felt like there was nothing really left for me to learn because I was staying in a hostel. It was just, I did everything already, I didn't even want to leave Chiang Mai. If it was Chiang Mai, I would have stayed the whole time, but because I had to go back to Bangkok because that's what my flight was. But I thought 10 days might have been too long. Maybe one day would have been nice. I would have stayed the rest of that in Chiang Mai and I would have enjoyed it. But anyway, I came home in July, and as soon as I came home, I didn't go back to work. So right now we're in January 4th, all right? And I came back July 28th. And from July all the way until November 27th, I didn't work. What I did was I spent 5 days in the boxing gym every week, gymming, getting gains, and staying sharp with in Santry Boxing Gym. As you know, Santry, that's where it's at in Dublin. Absolutely amazing. There's nothing that I regret in any of that because I feel like my boxing skills just went to a different level. I helped one of my friends. He won the All Irelands, in my opinion. He did win. I helped him, get to the final after only a year, and I was building myself mentally and spiritually. On top of that, emotionally, mentally, in all areas, I was really building. The only area that I wasn't building since March was financially. And, that was an interesting term of life that I can call that. Because, okay, so that's basically what happened. And then we got to this point right now where we're at. Started going back to work again. And from the very beginning, a couple of the lessons that I learned, I'll go from country to country. So in Portugal, did I learn anything in particular that I still take hold with me to this day? Not necessarily. Yeah, no, not really. I didn't really learn too much about myself, my relationship, nothing like that while I was there. But it went out of my comfort zone because that was the first time we've ever stayed in a hostel, actually, on this trip. So we backpacked it. Never stayed in a hostel before. One of the things that I did learn was the value in documenting your process, your progress, and just documenting for the sake of documenting, because it's great stories that I can give to people now that the trip is finished. I can't just talk about it now. I can show people exactly what it is that I was doing, and they can see it and feel it, even though it's not like the real thing, it's very close to it. Right after we did, so after Portugal, we then landed in Thailand. And in Thailand, a couple of the things that I learned there was the world is a massive place. It is huge. What you think you know in this little island, what you think you know about the world from where you are, go to somewhere that's completely opposite and it will really change how you view things. Seeing different types of people where, we don't see anybody. I think I've seen maybe 10 black people the whole time, but I never felt at a place and I never felt like I felt at home. These people make you feel at home. You never feel uncomfortable. You never feel like you don't belong. Nothing like that. You know, one of the other things I learned was there are hustlers out here, man. There really are, and you can find them everywhere. There are hustlers out here. It's not just in your hometown. One thing I'm learning about is getting out of your hometown to recreate yourself is probably the most important thing you can do as a young person is getting away from what you were known for, and then you can go and create a whole new persona, a whole new person to create, you know, and it's you. Nobody else is in control of that. You can create the new person that you want to be. If you want to be more outgoing, you can be. So one thing I was realizing in everybody here, all of the foreigners that I was seeing from so many different countries, they all recreated themselves to be here, because I can guarantee the people back at home wouldn't recognize the people that are currently here because they left while everybody else chose to stay. So that's a really interesting observation that I made there, that I found. Another one was, where else did I learn? Koh Tao, absolutely amazing experience. What I learned there was, when people say that there's heaven on earth, it really did feel like it in Koh Tao. But there's not really a main life lesson that I learned there. The life lesson I learned was in Cambodia when we stayed on a farm. We chose to do a farm stay because we wanted to experience what it was like in the Cambodian lifestyle. What do they live like? What do they eat in the village? What do they do in the village? That was when we decided to go there. Funny enough, my wife actually booked it, and she's the complete opposite of somebody that would want to stay on a farm with no AC and, no, there's like holes in the doors and, wall geckos all over the place and mosquitoes everywhere, But she booked it and we did it anyway, right? So we did that for 3 nights. And that 3 nights felt like it was 2 weeks. I didn't want it to end, honestly, and I genuinely felt like crying when I had to when I had to go. My wife stayed 2 days, and then after that she went to a 5-star hotel. But I decided to stay the last night by myself, just to finish the mission that I set out to do. And it was an absolutely amazing experience in Cambodia. What I learned there was a big lesson that I actually took back home with me. When people say it takes a village to raise a child, I truly understood that there. It truly, it takes a village to raise a child. Everybody knows everybody. You can ask somebody, where's my child? They know where your child is. If they see a child doing something, they'll discipline your child. It's not like in the Western world where it's kind of a free-for-all. It's everyone against everyone. Don't talk to my child like that. Don't say this to my child. Don't do that to my child. Don't hit my child. Don't, all of this stuff. It's very, I don't even know the word that I could even use. But ultimately, it takes a village to raise a child, and the sense of community, of belonging, I understood it. I spoke to a young man that was there, and what he said to me was, he'd like to eventually go abroad to study, but when he finishes and he makes enough money, he wants to eventually come back and change his village. And, he said that because that was his home. He truly felt like that was his home. A lot of the times, people don't feel like where they are is home. It's very hard for a place to feel like home, actually. Very, very difficult, especially here in Ireland. For me, my whole perspective before was to leave Ireland, was to figure a way how I can get out of here, where else I can go, what else I can do. But seeing him say that and have such a love for his village, they didn't have crazy nice structures and stuff like that. Like, it's a village, like it's what you would expect in the middle of nowhere. But he loved it, and he loved the people that were there, and he wanted to transform it. He wanted to build it up, which I thought was very honorable. And I did envy that side of him, because I didn't feel like that for any place either. I didn't feel like that for any place in particular. I didn't care enough, and yeah, that was a big learning lesson that I learned there. It's like, home is where your people are. And it's not just, oh, your race. No, it's your people. It's the community that you have, you know. And that community you have, you can either create it, or you can be born into it. It seems that he was born into that community, but he loved it that much because they're all so tight knit. Everybody knows everybody, you know. It was very admirable. And while he was there, or while I was there, I also learned the benefits of giving your children freedom. You know, here in the West, we tend to coddle our youth a little too much. And what I mean by that is, when we were out in the farm, his kids, like, he doesn't even know where they are. I was asking, where's your kids? He wouldn't know. I'm just out here looking for him. So I saw him out here, but he just vanished. I look up in the tree. He's up in the tree in his farm, in his father's farm. He's like 4, and he climbed a tree. A 4-year-old climbed a tree, right? That was crazy to me because I can't picture that happening here at home. A 4-year-old climbing a tree. Not only was he climbing the tree, what was he getting in the tree? He was picking mangoes to come and feed the people that were staying at his father's Airbnb. Like, that is just so cool. His dad didn't ask him to do it. He just went and done it, right? Another thing that I realized is they need to be outside. Kids can't be stuck inside, and this is why I tend to be against living in cities for long periods of time, or having all of your children in a city where there's no garden, there's no grass, there's nowhere for them to play, get lost. While I was there, these kids, like, even though they weren't well off, they were, by relative standards, poor, but they were very rich because of the experience that the children had. They didn't have the kids didn't have phones or anything, no internet. They spent all of their time outside. That's where they spent all of their time. And then when they had a bit of time in the evening, they'd take their mum's phone and scroll through TikTok, And the two of them, the two kids, there was a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old, they'd just be there together scrolling, enjoying it together. But they did everything together, And it was just so interesting seeing how the family operated. And it was so beautiful just seeing it. The kids get lost, the kids going outside and playing, falling, scratching themselves, but getting back up and running again because they don't care, They're not coddled, I just loved, it was a lovely view. It was a lovely thing to see. And that's where I really learned the lesson of it takes a village to raise a child. The next place we went after Cambodia was, we also experienced Cambodia's Songkran. I'm going to make YouTube videos on all of the whole process anyway. I have all of the content, so don't worry. I'll move on to the next lesson that I learned. So after we finished in Cambodia, we went to Vietnam. And in Vietnam, once again, another major, major city. This place is huge. Oh man, you think you know things by scale, but then you really get there and you're like, what? Hundreds, thousands of people on motorcycles just flying, whizzing around. It's, these cities in Asia, they don't sleep, man. Like, we got there, you can order food at 4 a.m. and it's hot, Like, everywhere is open. These people don't sleep. I still don't even have an answer to it. When do these people sleep? I don't know. I do not know when they sleep. Because they're just active 20, or like literally around the clock. The city is alive, And I never experienced that because everything in Ireland here closes at like 10 o'clock. You'd struggle to find something to eat at 1 a.m. here. And what we learned then what I learned in Vietnam was living a life that is actually peaceful, Like, these people are rich. But when I say rich, it's rich in experiences. Like, these people can go out and eat every day because it's cheaper to eat out than it is to just make food at home, And they get quality food for an affordable price, so everybody can eat it. So you see every single day, everybody is out with their friends, with their family. It's the community element. People are out all the time enjoying each other's company. It's not something you see often here, and if it is, it's a pub. You don't really see people going to a restaurant because the restaurants are expensive, People are just like, oh man, I can't go to the restaurant. Like if even once a week, people would typically go. But even once a week, you're spending like 100 quid, you know. But people go to the pub, they spend like 150, maybe once a week or something like that. But it's a lot cheaper for them to go out and do that. Like in relative means, it's just cheaper. That's actually another thing I learned in Portugal as well. People go out to eat all the time because, even though they don't make much, they can still afford to go out and have a nice meal 2 or 3 or 4 times a week. Or if not having a nice meal, they invite people to their home and do that. That's another thing I want to bring. That's one thing that I wanted to bring home with me. So back to Vietnam. While we were there was people that, were enjoying each other's company. They were out all of the time. Another thing I learned was I saw a video while I was in Vietnam. This was on the bus this was on the bus coming back from Ha Giang because I didn't have internet while we stayed there. And what I saw was some youths in Ireland with knives and, fake guns. But I think it was in Navan. And these were young guys looking for beef or whatever. And it was just very heartbreaking because I said, how does this level of degeneracy even come to a whole generation? And it really confused me because they're not too much younger than me. And I'm thinking, why do things like this happen? And what's being done about it other than saying, ship all these Africans back to Africa, send them all away, this, that. Nobody's thinking of solutions. Everyone's complaining about the problem. Nobody wants to fix it. Everybody wants somebody else to fix it. And this is another thing I learned. If not you, who? And I want you to take that principle and apply it to every area of your life. If there's a problem that you're seeing, and a problem that other people are seeing and complaining about, but nobody's doing anything about it, if not you, who? Because a lot of times we actually have to take the initiative to create solutions for the issues that we're having. So I saw that, and it really broke my heart. And I said, no, I need to do something. Where all of this typically stems from is single motherhood. The father's not around. That's a generational problem. And I can't believe it affects this many people. How do this many people not have a father around? That they can just take to the streets like this. I saw hundreds. I said, this isn't a problem of, we can't blame the single mothers. They can only do so much. As a man, we have to blame ourselves and hold ourselves accountable. So what I learned there was, if not you, who? And I decided to create a men's group because I want to start from the ground and build my way to eventually affect generations. So to do that, the men have to be men of high caliber. It's not just men that can just, have sex with a woman, have a child and abandon them, right? That's not a man. That is a failure. And I can't respect people like that. I can't. You get zero respect from me because of the turmoil and the damage that you're leaving in a whole nother generation. That's going to affect that child in all they do, in everything that happens afterwards, in their interactions with women, in their interactions with their mother, in their interactions with people outside, in their interactions with authority. It's going to leave damage on all areas just because you didn't do your job correctly. So I decided to do things about it, which I will detail later. But that was one thing that I learned there. If not you, who? Now, before we came back from Ha Giang, to go to Hanoi, while we were there, what I learned was people need to travel and experience something that they've never experienced and get out of their comfort zone. Because when you get out of your comfort zone, you actually see how big the world is and how little your problems actually are. When you sit down and realize how insignificant you are in this world, you start to realize that the problems that you feel like are as big as the universe are so minuscule that they don't even affect a single person's life outside of your own. There are so many different areas that people need to that can be solved in people's lives if they just get out of their comfort zone and just took that trip Take that solo trip, go and experience that thing, do something that you've never done before. Because number one, you'll have stories to tell. And what does that do? It builds character. A lot of people have zero stories to tell about themselves. They're not interesting in the slightest. Why? Because they've just done the conventional things. You can live conventionally, do the normal stuff, but still have stories to tell from your experiences. But if you choose not to experience anything because of fear, you're basically a robot. You're a bot, just living on autopilot. You have no stories. There's no substance to you. And I'm not saying that to degrade you. I'm saying that because that fear that you have isn't real. It's a self-imposed fear. It's a self-imposed worry. All of your worries and fears and all of this stuff, it's all self-imposed. You actually put yourself in a jail. You've jailed your own mind from expansion. When people say broaden your horizons, it literally, it really does broaden your horizons. The world looks so big to me now, and my problems now seem so so small to what they once would have been. Because I got out there, I saw the world, I saw what it's like to be in the vastness of the ocean. I saw what it was like to scuba dive and swim at the bottom of the ocean. I saw what it was like to jump out of a plane. I saw what it was like to ride at the back of a motorbike and speeding through the mountains and letting the wind brush off your face and experiencing that, adrenaline, experiencing what it's like to train with Thai people for a whole month in a Thai Muay Thai camp, experiencing foods that are outside, doing all of these experiences, having all of this fun. All of those stories, I have them now in my memory tank, which is my mind. And people can see it on me from the spirit that I have, from the experiences that I garnished along the way. People can see when you have character. They can see when you have substance to you. It's very easy to tell if there's no substance to you. Very easy to tell. Or when you go on holidays, you just go to the places that are the same in every country. You go to the main city, do the same stuff in each of the main cities. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing new. It's the same thing. All cities now in the modern world are all very, very similar. They'll copy and paste. They all copy each other in how they build their architecture and the foods that they have there. It's to cater to everybody. So you'll find everything in every city, But not enough people go on the road least traveled. That's where the stories are. That's where the substance is. And that's what I learned in Ha Giang. Right after that, we went to... Oh, another thing I learned was that the heartbreak that I had seeing those young guys doing all that stuff here in Ireland led me to also create or to also teach children. Like I said with the principle before, if not you, who? So I took that principle and I said, okay, if not me, who? What can I do? Months before in my church, my pastor asked me to be part of the children's ministry, teach children on Sundays. And I said, no, I like the media team, But ultimately, and this is how God is funny, because he planted the seed months before the trip, and it's on the trip I discovered, I think that's where I want to base myself now. I think that's where I want to go. And that's exactly what I did. And I decided in that moment in Vietnam, while we were staying in our luxury hotel, that I was going to be part of the children's ministry. I want to make an impact, not just in the youths or the older people, because, it's not that they are beyond repair, but if I can nip it in the bud earlier, that's where I need to focus my resources. And I truly feel like that's where my heart is calling me. And that's when I realized my passion is actually children. I love children. I love creating stuff for them. They give me so much joy, Yeah, I love kids. They're so creative. I love looking at their minds and how their minds are so malleable, how their minds are so, they don't have fear. They don't have any of those mental constraints that we have. And I'm, you know, absorbing that energy from the kids and my own mind. Then I'm keeping my own mind malleable so that I can't be. I don't want to be too rigid. So having that energy from the children and learning from them how to be less rigid has actually helped me a lot creatively. And the creative ideas that I have that will be produced within this year will start to come out slowly, you know. And I trust God to use me as a tool, you know, to expand His will and His kingdom and His dominion. So there's a lot of interesting things that are going to come out this year. Yeah, so that's what I learned there. Another thing I learned when we went back to Thailand and I spent a whole month there is how difficult it seemed for some people that were working to live. You know, as nice as we say these countries are, as cheap as they are in terms of our money, for them it's not cheap. Just like our own countries aren't cheap for us, their own countries aren't cheap for them either. But when you take your money and bring it to their country, which is a lower economy, then you start to realize that, you know, then you start to realize that when you put things into perspective, everybody is just trying to, you know, make it day by day. Everybody just wants to pay their bills and, you know, do A, B, C, and D and do what they have to do and do this and do that. People are just trying to get by, you know, and sometimes it's hard to like to see it from the way they see it. But when you realize how difficult it can be for some people even in your own country, then you start to see like, oh, so this is how they also feel, you know, in their own country. And then people come in with all this money, just blowing it, and they're just looking at it like, man, you know, if only I had what you just spent in the club this night, you know, if I made that in a month. So that was another perspective shift. It's to actually put myself in other people's shoes to understand and realize how life is for others, you know, and to empathize with them, because everybody's trying, you know, everybody's trying to get through. Another thing I realized was how people really like were very present, and being present is a very good thing. Don't get me wrong, but there's a time and a place for being present and also thinking about the future. A lot of the decisions I saw a lot of people making, they didn't think about the future too much. And I know Asians have a reputation of really thinking about the future a lot. But I guess it's hard to think about the future when you're present day. You don't even know what you're going to eat today or tomorrow, you know. So I, I can't sit here and claim like I know exactly how they feel or what they're going through. But it's similar to the Nigerian culture as well, you know, from what I've experienced. Yeah. So while I was in Thailand, Chiang Mai, what I learned there was how beautiful it is to have structure in your day. You know, not only structure, how beautiful it is to have friends that you can actually call friends. You know, having friends is a wonderful, wonderful thing. People that you can trust and people that are also on that think similar to you and are on the same wavelength. There's nothing more powerful than two minds that think alike. Really, really and truly, there isn't. So much can be done with people that think alike and want to actually do better, not for just themselves, but for the world as a whole. When you're not selfish and bogged down with your own thing, you know, friends can add serious joy to your life. Nothing like there's a few things that money can't buy. Money can buy you a lot, you know, but money only solves money problems. But another thing about money is that it's harder to trust when you have it. But ultimately, having friends is something that I just don't believe that money can really buy you. Like true friends that you can just sit down for hours and talk about, you know, Not just you can talk about nonsense stuff, but also, you know, things that other people wouldn't understand. If I said that I want to, buy 1,000 acres of land, you know, depending on who you're speaking to, you might not feel comfortable saying that around certain people because of the stage that they are at mentally. You know, um, there's some people that you can say that to with confidence, and they'll see that as a very normal thing to say. You want to be, the largest landowner in Ireland. If someone say, like, depending on who you say that to, you get different reactions depending on the person and their mind frame and the way they view the world. But when you have true friends, that's just a very normal thing to say. You don't feel judged. You don't feel like you can't say it. You don't feel like it's not audacious, like you feel like you're better than anybody just because you have big goals for yourself. And that's one thing that I realized when I came back. People think really, really small. Really, really small. And people only think about themselves. But they want the results of somebody that thinks about, others. Like, let's get it real here. Like, rich people don't get rich by only caring about themselves. Rich people get rich because they provide value to many people. That's how they get rich. You can't get rich if you only provide value to yourself. You can't. Rich people get rich because they provide value to many people. Billionaires provide value to millions upon millions or hundreds of millions of people. So we can't look at them and demonize rich people because they're providing more value than you. And when I say value, it's how are you bettering the lives of people around you? How are you bettering anybody's life other than yourself? You're probably not. Another thing I realized was people focus so heavily on themselves and their own individual happiness, all about themselves. All they think about is themselves. And their mental health will start to decline. But that's because you only focus on yourself and your family. I get it, but you can't just sit here and say, I only care about me and my family and nobody else. The world is not going to be a better place like that. And if you only care about your own individuality, and I don't want to, somebody to tell me what to, A, B, C, and D, and all of that, while you're providing zero value, depression is around the corner. Someone keeps pressing the emergency alarm down below. Sorry about that. But anyway, people typically only care about themselves and their own, what's going on in their life, and depression is right around the corner. Because one of the things that has been said a lot in men that commit suicide, it's that they feel the two words that were used a lot in their I can't remember what the manifestos was the feeling of worthlessness and uselessness. They felt worthless and useless. Those were two words that were repeated a lot. And feeling those feelings is very easy when you only focus on yourself, when you only care about your own individuality, you only care about your everything, you. Not thinking about how can I make the world and more people than myself a better place. Because trust me, you will give so much value and you have so much to give. But if you just use it for yourself, it's all for naught. And that reminds me of a story that I learned in the Bible. And I think it was actually Jesus that had this story. He was on the Sermon on the Mount. And it's a very interesting story that he gave because you're learning here, although as simple as it might seem at the beginning, what it actually tells us is how what you do and the gifts that you have, if they're not used, accordingly to help others and to benefit more than yourself, it will be for naught. And the results that you'll gain from that are so low. They are so low. Okay, so I found it. It's Matthew 25. We're going to start from 14, verse 14. And it's the parable of the three servants. And this ties this perfectly, what I'm trying to explain here. Because there is a lot of fruit that can be given when you are having a bigger mission than just yourself. That's where the value is. And that's how somebody can get rich. And that's also how, you can feel fulfilled in life. When you're doing things for more than yourself. When you're not only focusing on you. Honestly, you feel so fulfilled in the work that you do. Anyway, let me read. From 14. Again, the kingdom of heaven can be illustrated by a story of a man going on a long trip. He called together his servants and entrusted his money to them while he was gone. He gave 5 bags of silver to one, 2 bags of silver to another, and 1 bag of silver to the last, dividing it in proportion to their abilities. Then he left on his trip. The servant who received 5 bags of silver to invest the money earned 5 more bags. The servant with 2 bags of silver went off to work and earned another 2 more. But the servant who received the 1 bag of silver dug a hole in the ground and hid the master's money. After a long time, the master returned from his trip, called them to give an account on how they used his money. The servant to whom he had entrusted the 5 bags of silver came forward with 5 more and said, Master, you gave me 5 bags of silver to invest, and I earned 5 more. The master was full of praise. Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount, so now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. The servant who had received 2 bags of silver came forward and said, Master, you gave me 2 bags of silver to invest, and I earned 2 more. The master said, Well done, my good and faithful servant. You have been faithful in handling this small amount. Now I will give you many more responsibilities. Let's celebrate together. Then the servant with the 1 bag of silver came and said, Master, I knew you were a harsh man, harvesting crops you didn't plant and gathering crops you didn't cultivate. I was afraid I would lose your money, so I hid it in the earth. Look, here's your money back. But the master replied, You wicked and lazy servant. If you knew I harvested crops that I didn't plant and gathered crops I didn't cultivate, why didn't you deposit my money in the bank? At least I could have gotten some interest on it. Then he ordered, Take the money from the servant and give it to the one with 10 bags of silver. To those who use well what they are given, even more will be given, and they will have an abundance. But from those who do nothing, even with what little they have, it will be taken away. Now throw this useless servant into outer darkness, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. So what we learn in that story is the more you can do with the little that you have, the more that will be given unto you. And this is a universal principle that can be used in life. The more that you have, the more that the more you can give, the more that will be added onto you. It is a universal principle. I keep saying this. Like, this is how I survived with no job since March, with the little that I had. People would try and hoard all of the money if they could, but I gave it all away and more kept coming back to me, and I give it all away again and more kept coming back, and I kept giving it away, giving my time, giving my resources over and over and over again, and more keeps coming back to me. It's because the little that I had, I used that to help others, not just to help and make sure that, like, if somebody, like, no, I can't find food to eat. No, not like that. It's if I can still eat food and pay my bills. If I have a little bit left, I'll help if I can. Using the talents. When he was talking about the bags of silver, that is a talent that you have as an individual. You were blessed with from birth. Everyone has one. Don't tell me you don't, and you know you do. Everybody has a talent that they have that from birth. And those talents can be used. And when you choose to sit on that talent and only focus on yourself, You're just like the guy that had the one bag of silver and buried it in the ground when it could have been gaining interest in the bank. At least you would have gained something on it. If you could have at least helped some person. But no, you chose to be selfish and help only yourself. You chose to be selfish and focus only on you, not helping other people, focusing just on yourself, what you can do, what you can provide, but not helping anyone else. The person that had 5 doubled the amount. So what did his master do? He gave him more. He gave him many more. He said, I'm going to give you many more responsibilities. Now he has more of an opportunity to what? Help others. When people think about winning the lottery, they think about what they're going to buy, what they're going to do with the money, what they're going to, they. But that's why the lottery is designed for people like that. You know, that's why it's designed for people like that. Because it uses that fundamental greed that human beings have within our flesh. You know, that maybe if I get lucky, you know, Euro Millions, they put it in the poorest, they put the more lotto stations in the poorest regions, the places of the lowest economic value. Why? They don't do it for no reason. They do it because they know that your fundamental greed to get rich quick is more rampant in an area that has low economic value. Places that are quote unquote poorer have more of those vices, like gambling, you know, like more casinos, like more lottos to be played, fast money. Because you're the ones that are most susceptible to that. Rich people understand the value. Rich people value money more than a poor person. They value a penny more than a poor person does. And that's one thing that I was realizing. You know, why don't you be that guy that was given 5 bags of silver? Why don't you use your naturally born skill and ability to help other people? Everybody was born with something. Everybody has a gift that they were given from birth. Everybody. Everybody can help people over themselves. They can focus on other people, but they choose to just focus on themselves, just like the guy with the 1 bag of silver. Look outside of yourself and see what you can do on a global scale. And the riches, you won't even be able to contain them. Solve a problem that people struggle with, and you'll be rewarded. The marketplace will always reward the problem solvers. Always. There's never been a marketplace that didn't reward problem solvers. Help people, man. Don't focus on yourself. Give what you have and give it freely. Not everything you need to charge for. Not everything you need to make money from. There's so many things that I've done for absolute free, and I've just gotten more as a result. I've gotten more here, I've gotten more here, I've gotten more here. When I was supposed to, like, how does somebody in this climate, think about it, in this climate, manage to not work in Dublin? I literally live 20 minutes drive from like the center of Dublin. I did not work since March, and I survived. Zero income, managed to survive. So when people think you can survive on a lot less than you think, and you can do way more on a lot less than you think, people think that they need money to actually move mountains. You don't. And I've proven that to myself. That was another big key lesson that I learned. You don't need much to do a lot. Impact is something that, like I said, you were born with. It's the gift. It's the 5 bags of silver. You have it already. Money won't do anything for it. The Bible tells us in Luke, he who can be trusted with little can be trusted with much. Just like this story as well. He who could be trusted with the 5 bags of silver was given many, many more. It's an exponential return that you get. It's not like this, or it's not even like this. It's exponential. It's like that's how exponential it gets after a while. You know, the Bible also tells us that it's more blessed to give than to receive. It's more blessed. More blessed. That means it's more beneficial. More beneficial to give. Give as much as you can. And it doesn't have to just be financial. When I'm saying give, it's like, but I don't even have any money. I only make 200 quid a week, or I'm on the dole and I only get 200. 10% of that is 20. You could do something with that. And you can do something with your time. Because if you're on the dole, that means you have literally all the time in the world. You can invest your time into something or into someone. Yeah, that was a big thing I learned. I learned another 2 things in 2023. I'm going to get through them really quickly and I'm going to finish. 2 things. And then 2 things. There's truly power in what you say. Truly. There's truly power. When the Bible says life and death are in the power of the tongue, believe that fact. Also, even when the Bible says whatever a man thinketh, so is he. Whatever you see in the mirror, you are that. Whatever you say to yourself, your inner language, the inner monologue you have, you are that. So if it's negative, you will end up becoming that thing. If you allow people to tell you what you are, which is negative, that's what you'll end up becoming. Don't allow it to happen. There is truly power in what you say. The world was made, the universe was made from a word. And the Bible tells us that ye are gods. That means little gods. That means we have the ability to create our realities. Therefore, whatever you say will become a real manifestation in real life. So if you stay negative, that's the results that you'll get. Positivity begets more positivity. Okay? Now, the next one I read was in 1 Kings 19. When Elijah was discouraged about how lawless the world had gotten, he truly believed that he was the last righteous man alive. But then God told him that there were 7,000 others who didn't bow to Baal, which is basically one of the princes of hell. What this told me is that even though it seems like the world is lost, there are freedom fighters on your side that are operating behind the scenes with the exact same mission that you have. You are not alone. Okay? There are people that truly believe that the future is bright, not devoid of color. So bright you need sunglasses to see. Your helpers are operating. They might not be in public about it. But they are there putting things together and not bowing to Baal. You will find each other. God will create a path. Thanks for listening. See you on the next one. Peace.